after-action report on Stout Hearts, Battle in the Hedgerows from Tiny Battle Publishing. Thank you, Mark Walker. This is designed by Jay Ward, and it's one of his, in his line of solitaire games that I think started with the Battle of Ramadi and also the Battle of Wei that was in a YA magazine. These are kind of a cup type solo game where the AI, or in this case the Germans, are controlled, have a pre-set up position on the board, and then they're reinforced or have counterattacks come into play based on what you pull out of the cups. Now, not only do the German units have a combat value, but they also have some special abilities when they are uncovered, and basically they start hidden, and then when you flip them over, when you move adjacent to them, you flip them over, and then they might have special abilities. They might call in artillery strikes, or they might, like there's a minefield that came in on the board. They might have different effects depending on whether they're going up against tanks or not. They might have different values if they're part of a defense versus a counterattack and the like. So there's quite a bit of variability in the game that kind of keeps you guessing as you move along. This is the final situation of my game. You can play a bonus scenario or bonus turns, optional rules, and go longer. I went to the regular period and ended up with 62 victory points, which is actually relatively good. Let's see here what the final outcomes are on here for your victory levels. 60 plus victory points or more. That has given Jerry a pasting. Good yarns for the officer's mess. The chaps have done well. Up the 5th. So it's not the highest level, but it's pretty doggone good. And I had a relatively good go of it in this play. I'm still learning some of the mechanisms. I think I messed up a few things. It's not overly complex, but getting into the suppression and counterattacks are probably the only tough things in this game. Everything else is relatively straightforward, but sometimes trying to figure out how to do suppression or the effects of suppression, then get the counterattacks in, that is can become a little cumbersome. Also, you have kind of a built-in clock here with these flank, because you're in the middle of a formation and you have other British units that are moving along this same corridor, and so if they outflank you, then you're going to lose victory points for everything that you have behind the flanking. So that's a constant reminder to keep you moving forward. And so if you get bogged down at all, you're going to get behind on victory points in that regard as well. I had a relatively clear sailing through there, although, again, I might have messed up a few things along the way, as I'm apt to do, but it's a solo game, right? During the game, what you're basically going to do is you've got 4 companies, A through D. You can do this bonus company as an optional rule. And you're going to keep track of their overall strength on this track, and that can go down over time. And the big effects of this is if you ever get down to 0 on this, you're going to lose victory points, but it also does your rally roll. So where you land on this track, like as long as you stay 6 and above, you could roll a 3 and above. You get to rally troops from a static position. If you're in this area, you have to roll 4, 5, and then 6. So, the lower you get down on total strength, then it's harder to rally. This is kind of an abstraction of, casualties and getting, bogged down in the morass of the battle. So what else? Well, the victory points, the main way to get victory points is to take on these locations here. You get 3 for these locations here in the midsection, and then if you're in the reserve, which is kind of the German reserve, you get 5 points for those positions. and you get it when you occupy it, and then you can move on. You don't have to leave a unit there to hold on to it. However, if the Germans do take it back, then you lose that victory point immediately off this track, and you can just keep track of stuff in 10s and 1s on this track as well. The other way you get victory points is by eliminating units, and when you eliminate a unit, then you get a victory point for it. So that's another way. Again, you lose victory points by losing these positions, but also if you get down too low on this, or if this flank track comes up that you get outflanked, you lose victory points that way. Quite a few, the decisions in this game really focus on your initial setup of your left, center, right, who you're going to put in there from these different units, and this is all randomly generated on what their starting strength points. So every game, this is going to be different of what their starting strength point is going to be. So, and I had like 7, 8, 9, 10 for these, so I had a pretty good starting point. But if you're on the lower end, then this could become more problematic. Another thing is trying to do rallying and how you move and how you attack and try to clear up your corridors. If you get too jammed up, it's going to be harder to break through your own units to get to the Jerry's, so to speak. You also have your overall leader or your battalion, the Lieutenant Colonel here, and you can bring him on and off the board. And putting him on the board, you can put him with your units, and he can help rally them as well. And sometimes you need to do that to rally your company leaders so that they can rally other units. When I say rally, units go static. They can go static by combat. There's a really nice player rate here chart that talks about has your sequence of play. Also deals with barrages, suppression, assaults, which is the heart of the game is the assaults, and then the other part is these counterattacks. But you can go static from mortar fire, from combat or assault, and when you're static, you can't do anything. You're just kind of stuck there, and you flip the unit over, so you have less defense or less combat value, and subject to the attacks of the Germans, and then you're also not doing anything. So that could slow down your forces or kind of bog up your lines as well. So there is some definite decisions there on how you do that. When you take a German position, then it has a chance to have a counterattack or German response. And it depends on whether it's the outpost, it's the main, or it's the reserve, these three sections. And you roll here, and whether you get a mortar attack, which is basically an attack on that position, and if you get 5 or 6, then it becomes static. You flip it over, or a counterattack, or a mortar and a counterattack. And when you do a counterattack, then you're going to be rolling a die to see how many units that you're going to draw from the cups. And the cups are going to be delineated by the different areas. There's an A area, which is the outpost. There's a B area, which is the main, and then there's the C area, which is the reserve of the German line. So those units get a little bit tougher in the reserve. They usually has a little bit more higher combat value, or at least counterattack value, and you got to watch out for that. So that's where some of the randomness comes in with the cups, and you're going to have a random setup, and then you're going to have a random draw for these counterattacks. So you can get quite a few units that come into play on a counterattack, and they're basically going to surround the position that's attacked. And they can be, you can remove them from the board with combat, and they also might be removed. You can eliminate them from the board from combat, but they can also be, they might be removed as part of their counterattack. Sometimes, like it says, if there's more than one unit, then you remove the extra unit or what have you. I didn't give victory points for that if it was just removed from the board, but I did give it victory points if anything was eliminated. So that's how I played it, and hopefully did that right. And I give victory points anytime you eliminate a unit off the board. Sometime, I think I was watching one playthrough, I think it was Tony Board's Life, where when he eliminated a unit and put it, if it went back into the cup, because some of these units have, designations on them that when when you eliminate it, it goes back in the cup, whatever cup that is, whether it's A, B, or C. I didn't see maybe I missed it. I didn't see a rule where it says you didn't get a victory point for that, so I took a victory point if I was knocking it off the board. Now, if it was just removed from the board or said removed from the board, I didn't do that. It was a matter if it was eliminated as part of an attack. But that's how I was reading it, and I'll go back and take a look at that again sometime. So there you have it. This is the game. It's it's been a long time since I played Ramadi and Hugh, Way. Got me there. The other two games from Jay Ward that used this system, I think those are the only other two. I remember this to me, I haven't played Ramadi in a long time, but this kind of felt more like Ramadi. Hugh felt a little bit different. Of course, it was just a urban attack. It wasn't, it really wasn't any open field. It was just a part of the siege of Hue during Vietnam, and so it was more, more urban and buildings, I think, or heavily congested urban environment is my recollection of that. So it didn't feel as open as this, or open to, maneuver and move your units and make some decisions on that. Anyway, but I like this. This is a good game. If you like Solitaire World War II, this is an intriguing system. It's not that hard to get into, and it plays relatively nice. It's not a charty war game, solitaire war game where you're like always looking at a chart and then rolling and looking at a chart. This is more of a procedural or sequential. I mean, you're going to do your turn, the AI does its thing, and there's combat, and the combat, is relatively straight. There's, basically there's assault combat, and then there's counterattack combat that have kind of different results to it on what's going to happen there. But other than that, I mean, it just keeps flowing. I mean, it does get a little redundant, but not quite as redundant as a charty war game in that regard. But I mean, if you're playing a solitaire focused war game, you're kind of used to that. You're used to procedure and sequential and a sequence of play that that you have to follow rigidly to see what everybody does. So there you have it. I'll probably try to get some more plays of this in, but I wanted to at least get my initial after-action thoughts after this play. I got to do a little bit more and learn a little bit more, but enjoying it. And I wanted to thank Mark Walker again of Tiny Battle Publishing, among other entities, for giving me the opportunity to try this out. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Have you been playing it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? If you're a diehard solitaire war gamer, meaning that like playing solitaire focused games, not games that just not playing it two-handed, but games that are focused or primarily made to be played solitaire. Love to know your thoughts on this. Do you like this system? Is this something that fits with your expectations? I'm always fascinated by how many different solitaire type systems are out there, or like the States of Siege and the charty type systems, and then there's derivations of that. The people have taken some of those core, B-17 and the Queen of the Skies or States of Siege, and then they've expanded upon it. David Thompson's made a living off that with his Valiant Defense series. So I'm always looking at new solitaire systems, and this one is very interesting, and I like to see where this one goes. Anyway, love to have your thoughts. Thank you so much for stopping by. Always appreciate that. I really do. And one way I can tell if you stop by is drop a comment, but you don't have to. Don't feel any obligation there. The main thing, the only obligation you have is hey, be safe. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.